A crew member has just vanished from a brand new cruise ship, the Norwegian Viva. They went overboard, and after a massive 3-day search, they were never found. This incredibly tragic event really opens up a much bigger story. It's not just about what happens when someone goes overboard, but it's about the unseen world of the people who work on these ships. So we're going to explore what happened, the really stark odds of survival, and the hidden pressures of life at sea.
You know, behind every single luxury cruise, there's a massive crew working around the clock. And when one of them goes overboard, it's just this chilling reminder of the dangers they can face. This isn't just some safety issue, it's a deeply human one. And it kind of forces us to look a lot closer at the lives of the people who make these amazing voyages possible in the first place.
Okay, so let's just walk through exactly what happened. On the morning of April 9th, the Norwegian Viva leaves Cozumel. Everything seems normal. But then, just hours later, around 7 p.m., the man overboard alarm sounds. For 3 agonizing days, a huge search and rescue operation scoured the ocean. But on April 12th, the search was officially called off. The crew member was gone.
That timeline brings up a really urgent question, right? Once that alarm goes off, what actually happens next? I mean, how do you even begin to search for one person in the absolute vastness of the ocean?
Well, there's a very strict protocol for this. Instantly, the alarm is sounded and authorities are contacted. Then, the crew scrambles to review surveillance footage, trying to pinpoint the exact moment and location the person went into the water. Every single second counts as they launch rescue boats, all while trying to calculate where the ocean currents and the weather might have taken them. It's a race against time.
And these search operations are huge, involving both the cruise ship and local authorities. But the clock is always ticking. The window for a successful rescue is brutally short. We're talking just 48 to 72 hours, typically. And in this case, the person went overboard at night, which makes an already impossible-sounding task even harder.
And here's the grim reality of why that window is so short. The estimated chance of survival after going overboard from a cruise ship is only between 16 and 22%. That is a staggering number that just highlights how incredibly perilous these events are.
And while these stories are always shocking when we hear them, they are not isolated incidents. Globally, there are about 25 man-overboard cases every year. To put that in perspective, that means on average, it happens about twice every single month.
So all of this leads to the most fundamental question of all. How does this even happen, right? These are modern ships, they have high railings, countless safety features. How does a person just fall off?
Well, an experienced former crew member put it really bluntly. They said nobody just simply falls off of a cruise ship. The way these massive vessels are designed, with their super high railings, it makes a purely accidental fall extremely unlikely, which means there are almost always other factors involved.
So, investigators typically look at 3 main possibilities. And while the official cause in this Norwegian Viva case hasn't been determined, experts say there's a consistent and frankly tragic pattern in these kinds of incidents. So the 3 main scenarios are an accidental fall, foul play, or an act of self-harm. According to industry insiders, true accidents are very rare. Foul play? Almost non-existent. The difficult truth is that in the vast majority of these cases, the evidence points to an intentional act. And to even begin to understand why that might be, we have to look past the event itself and into the lives of the crew. These are the lives that are largely invisible to passengers. So what is their reality really like?
A former Norwegian cruise line employee stated it very plainly. Working on board a cruise ship is no joke. For us as guests, it might look like a dream job, right? Getting paid to travel the world. But behind that polished service is a reality that is incredibly, incredibly demanding.
I mean, just think about the pressures they face. They are isolated, thousands of miles away from their families, often for months at a time. They work grueling hours, and sometimes they have to deal with demanding or even abusive guests. And on top of all that, they're carrying the same personal burdens we all do, family worries, financial stress, health concerns, but they're doing it without their support system anywhere nearby.
That combination of intense professional pressure and deep personal isolation, well, as the source said, it takes a toll. Over a long contract, that mental and emotional weight just becomes immense.
And this is a really crucial difference from a job on land. If there's a crisis back home, a sick parent, a family emergency, they can't just leave. They are contractually bound to that ship, basically trapped thousands of miles away. Can you just imagine the helplessness of that feeling?
So there's this huge disconnect between perception and reality. What we see as a dream job, a free ticket to see the world, is for them a really high-pressure, isolating environment. It's a life defined by sacrifice and distance from pretty much everything and everyone they love.
So, once we understand this reality, it brings us to a simple but really powerful question. What can any of us actually do about it?
So what can be done? You know, the plea from former crew members isn't about big policy changes or protests. It's much simpler, and it's much more personal than that. They just ask that passengers simply be kind, to treat them with basic human dignity and respect. Because behind every crew member, the person cleaning your room, serving your dinner, or smiling at the guest services desk, there is a whole life. A life with family, with stresses, with dreams that we as passengers know absolutely nothing about.
So this all comes down to two really simple actions. First, for passengers, just be nice to the crew. A simple thank you or a moment of patience can be a small light in a very long, very stressful day. And second, for all of us, if you have a friend or a family member working on a ship, check in on them. Send them a message. That connection to home can be a powerful, powerful antidote to the isolation they feel.
It leaves us with a final question to reflect on. Beyond the price of our ticket, what do we really owe the people who make these incredible vacations possible? And maybe it's not about a debt, but maybe it's about a basic recognition of our shared humanity, a recognition that can be offered with something as simple as kindness.